Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the Guardian of the Blue Paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. A show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, just who is going to be the next bench boss for the Flyers. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And Lance, my friend, my brother, my compatriot, the Guardian of the Blue Paint, the writer extraordinaire. We're on episode 75 of the Hockey Writers Inc., folks. And just who is going to be the next bench boss for the Flyers is the episode 75 that we're going to get into. And this ties directly into the hot, and do I mean El Fuego, article that Mr. Lance Green wrote for the Flyers Nitty Gritty site. I believe he said, 3,400 views on that article right now?
Something close to that, yeah.
Something close to that. Well, let's try to get a little bit more enlightenment out there, shall we?
All right.
This article posted to the Flyers Nitty Gritty website.com, flyersnittygritty.com website just a mere few days ago. This article by our esteemed writer extraordinaire has once again hit the nail on the head as the Flyers search for their next bench boss. And folks, look, the other day, like almost coinciding with when this article came out, the Flyers had a press conference where, or not necessarily a press conference, but they had a press release saying that Mike Yeo was relieved of his head coaching duties for the Philadelphia Flyers. Mm-hmm. And then, what was it, a day later or 2 days later, they had the press conference with Fletcher, right?
Yes.
Right, to talk about some of the other things that were going on and the other things that we'll talk about a little later. But with that being said, and this was a foregone conclusion, I think that, so. I mean, he was labeled as an interim coach to begin with. Yep. They were already pretty much called him a lame duck coach and already said from the get-go that he was going to be an interim coach and that he was not going to be their solution moving forward.
For sure.
And the best tweet, and I'm going to have to say this, was the best tweet that I saw was, the best news heard today was that Mike Yeo is no longer the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. And the worst news I heard that day was that Sam Morin was not going to be playing for the Flyers anymore either. So hats off to Sam, dude. You get the Hockey Writers Inc. salute, brother, for trying to play through those really horrible ACLs that you went through. 3 of them in 2 years. That's just unheard of. 2 of them in the same knee, you know.
Yeah. The nicest guy I think I've ever really met. Always willing to stop and talk and just,
that's awesome.
Give you a piece of his time or a little bit of his time. Really, really nice guy. And, one of my favorite prospects that just never prospered, never really got going, Would have been a great Flyer, if he did. So
he had that snarl, he had that size, he had that want to, what I mean, and was willing to do anything for the team and willing to do anything to protect his players. So, hats off to Sam. Sorry that you have to hang up the skates. I'm sure the Flyers will find something for you. Hang around for a little minute. They'll probably get something. Yeah, Trust me. There'll be an announcement here in the next couple of weeks. Sam Morin announced as assistant head coach for whatever. Anyway.
Nepotism at its finest.
Oh, boy. Hey, there we go. I knew it wasn't going to take long.
Hey. So let's
dive into this, right?
Let's jump into this. Okay. So before the announcement was made,
yes,
I wrote this article.
Yes.
Because everybody knew the writing was on the wall. So Mike Yeo was 59 games in. he had 17 wins, 36 losses, and 7 overtime losses, which equates to a win percentage as the Flyers head coach or interim head coach to a win percentage of just .342 percent of his games. You're definitely not making any playoffs, with that aspect.
Jeez,
I didn't see
man.
a whole lot of changes out on the ice, as far as new system that he tried to bring in. He just kind of was holding down the fort until the end of the season came. I really don't know.
That's funny that you say that because that's not what Chuck saw.
Really?
Okay, Chuck said that, oh, well, we really handed Mike a really bad situation, and he saw some improvement from some players and this, that, and everything else. And I'm like, wow, man, are you watching the same game here, man?
Right.
Right?
He saw improvement because you took a lot of players out of the lineup and inserted a lot of the team's youth.
Okay.
That should have been up,
There you
a
go.
whole lot earlier. So,
Oh, gosh.
so
Lance,
with that,
Lance, listen. Okay, come on. Look, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Why are you making me say this, Lance? Why? Why are you making my worst nightmare come true?
Yeah, it's a harsh reality.
It is, man. It is. Okay. I have gone on record, and I will go on record in saying that this is going to be unannounced in the next some amount of time, that this first name that you have on your article is going to be announced as the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. Rick Tocchet. Okay.
So yes, let's back this up just a hair. This list is not necessarily my picks that I would make. It is the best candidates that the Flyers are going to consider. Let's face it, they love nepotism. They love to bring in these players that used to be great players for the team into all different facets of this team. I'm surprised some of them aren't selling beer at the game still or something. Well,
I don't know, man. They brought Lindros back to bang the drum there for the one game there too. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Who knows? But let's get into this.
Now look, I'm not advocating that you are saying that this is who you would pick.
Right.
You have basically just gone through, I mean, and there's 9 of them, and there's going to be even more because just the other day, Mark Recchi was relieved from the Devils, and there was another coach from the Devils that was also relieved of their coaching duties, and there's going to be other coaches that are going to face that same kind of chopping block, come like in football, they call it Black Monday. Like at the end of the season, when the season's over, that following Monday is when all the head coaches are gone, right?
Sure.
So, this, like I'm saying, we're not advocating that this is who Lance is selecting as the head coach. He's just saying that these are the guys that are available.
Right.
And Rick Tocchet is the top of the list.
Well, yeah, for good reason. His name has been circulating for some time now. He has had NHL head coaching experience, although he's made out a lot better as an assistant coach. He has 2 Stanley Cups, I believe, as an assistant, with the Penguins, but didn't work out too well when he was a head coach for both the Lightning, which I think he only managed to win a combined 53 games during his time there.
He was there for what, 3 years?
2 seasons.
2 seasons.
Maybe two and a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was a win percentage of a .446. That's less than half of his games. And then he didn't fare much better out in Arizona.
He was out there for a couple of years.
Yeah, he was out there for a couple of years, but he still achieved just a .490 win percentage out there. So, he had one halfway decent season where I think they actually squeaked into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that was his first year where it was somebody else's mess that he got handed. And,
yeah.
It went downhill after that. So
got lucky.
Yep. I don't know. Rick Tocchet is a name that's serious. Like Steele said here, it's a serious candidate. I believe that the Flyers will look at. And I surely hope they don't. I don't think of him as being a head coach material. Hey, if you want him to come back in, I wouldn't even want him to. But as an assistant coach, if you want to keep that nepotism, at its finest, Recchi, Tocchet, all those guys, maybe an assistant coach, but I think they need somebody else as a head coach.
Do you know what might not be a bad deal?
What's that?
And I would like this. In fact, I would endorse this 100%. If they brought in Rick Tocchet to coach the Phantoms. What do you think?
He couldn't do any worse.
Oh, okay.
Than Lappy, so.
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, at least he's got some coaching experience. Right. Lappy had nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, he was, he was.
Yeah, like I said, Lappy had nothing. Yeah. Okay. Tocchet at least has some coaching experience. Right?
Yeah.
Lappy
I would endorse assistant coach at the NHL level. He was gifted that after being a player development coach, and it never really worked out. So they didn't want to fire him. They gave him the Phantoms job, but he should definitely be out. They were last place in the, in their division. So
I would endorse that 100%. And if you even wanted to bring in Recchi to be the assistant coach, I'd endorse that. Come on, bring it. If you're going to do it, make him be for the Phantoms. Because at least those guys, at least Recchi is a Hall of Fame player. Mm-hmm. At least he knows how to win. At least he's a good power play guy. I mean, I don't know why he's getting relieved in New Jersey. I guess they're just going to go in different directions because New Jersey has been not so good over the last couple of years, and they're just still trying to put it together down there. I don't know what.
Yeah, that lineup is not the greatest for sure.
Yeah, they have some potential with their prospects, but
no goaltending.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, okay. Look, I know that name is out there, Rick Tocchet. I'm even predicting right now that the Flyers are going to announce that he's going to be the next head coach, not of the Phantoms, of the Flyers. And it's going to be, welcome back, Rick. Oh, thank you. Oh, please help us win a Stanley Cup. Oh, thank you. Right? That's what it's going to be, right? And it's going to be plastered all over the place, and they're going to say, yeah, man, welcome back, Rick Tocchet. He's going to do it. Blah, blah, blah. And then, let's see. What are we at here? The first 20 games gets us to about, what, the 1st of December? Ish, right? Gee, what happens in December in Philly? It starts to get cold. Mm-hmm. Coaches get fired usually. GMs get fired usually. Right? So if they fire a lot of them, now what? Now you just... hey. Anyway, so, all right, who's next on the list? Let's see. It's Dave. Dave Tippett.
Right.
In a word, no.
Yeah,
why Dave Tippett's on the list. I mean, he's obviously available.
He's obviously available. He actually, I believe, says he's retired from coaching after his last stop with Edmonton. He's 60 years old. He's still in good health and all that stuff. Just was kind of over it. But, Flyers being the Flyers, he's another ex-Flyers player. He spent a year or two with the team, but he does have a little bit better record than Tocchet over the years. In Dallas, he had a 61 percent of the time win percentage.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
I'll take that.
He's a former Jack Adams Award winner.
Yeah.
And, he did pretty well in Arizona before getting, fired, like most coaches that go to Arizona.
Get fired.
And yeah, that team's just it's hard to
train wreck.
Yeah. So
putting it mildly.
And then even with Edmonton, he still was able to win 0.596% of his games in Edmonton. Which,
all right, well, let's face it.
Which wasn't bad.
He had a lot of help in Edmonton there with Draisaitl.
Obviously, yeah. He had some offensive talent, but goaltending, it was not there, as it hasn't been since Dwayne Rollison, Grant Fuhrer, whoever you want to way back when. They haven't had a goalie in a long time. In Edmonton,
sure you're not talking about the Flyers?
Maybe Cujo.
Wow.
He was there, I would say.
Wow. All right. That's been a while.
Yeah. So,
okay.
He definitely had some great pieces in Edmonton, but definitely was a long way off. Their defense is still lacking, I believe, as well. A lot similar problems than the Flyers still have. So.
Yeah. See, now we're afforded at the SteelFlyers All Sports Network 2 amazing talents from that Edmonton area who have faith in the general manager of Edmonton now that they've gotten rid of Tippett, and we're not very complimentary of Mr. Tippett's coaching styles,
right.
And have been very much fawning over Mr. Woodcroft's coaching, because I think that's what saved the season for Edmonton, was bringing in Woodcroft, and the great Perlo Wisdom and the great Peyton on the radio. They are 100% endorse this coaching change here with getting Dave Tippett fired.
Right.
I am also of the same, like I said already in the beginning of that, in a word, no for Dave Tippett. I agree he's got a better winning percentage and such, but he's had some pretty decent teams. Luckily, he had a pretty good team in Dallas. Do you know what I mean? And nobody has a good team in Arizona. I don't care who you are. And then, to come to Edmonton and have such names that you have and then not be able to put it out there, that to me spells a big zero or a big no on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be in favor of that either, but it is a candidate still. So, right. That's why we brought it up. Yeah.
All right. Number 3 on the list. Are you ready for this? Okay. I did not tell Lance. I usually don't tell Lance of the question. Sometimes I send him notes, but a lot of times I don't. But this time I didn't, because I did it on purpose. John, holy freaking no way, Tortorella is number 4 on the list. And I know he's on the list because he's available as a coach. So explain to me, Mr. Tortorella.
So, of course, Tortorella his name has been rumored around to be an option for sure. Many reports are that, Tortorella still wants to coach again. And, I don't know. He's a Stanley Cup winner in 2004 with Tampa Bay. He's a 2-time Jack Adams Award winner.
Yeah.
So, it's there. He's coached in over 1,300 games.
I mean, he's one of the most winningest American-born coaches to ever coach in NHL.
Now, he's maintained a career over those 1,300 games, regular season-wise. A .548 win percentage. He's had some good teams. He's had some bad teams. But his tactics may be a little out of date. He would be a great coach in my eyes when I was playing, somebody that would motivate me. I had a couple of coaches like him back in the day when, the society wasn't so woke. And
boy, that's I got to write the word of the day.
Yeah. So, and kids, weren't back in the day weren't handed out participation trophies, so. But his tactics are not the same. I would go out, and if he cursed me out in the middle of a game, and did it so in front of my team, I'd be like, who's this guy think he is? I'm going to go out there and show him, right? As maybe most of us would do with a coach of that same tactic style. But today's players are, through past Columbus and everywhere he's kind of been, have just tore teams apart because star players don't want to play for him. A lot of guys asked to be traded. And I don't know if the Flyers would be prepared to trust his tactics in order and such deal with the repercussions of the way he coaches in order to achieve accolades that he has in the past. He definitely can win games, and he can definitely pull a roster of anybody and get them to play and get the most out of them. But I mean, I think it's kind of similar to AV at this point. AV came in pretty harsh, and he was sitting players, and he didn't care who you were. He was putting you down in the lineup. If you got JVR making $7 million, and he was seeing third and fourth line minutes, and Ghost was sitting up in the press box most of the time. So I think they had this kind of coach, maybe not so much, so in your face with it, but had this coach already, and it didn't work out with the current roster. I don't see them picking this coach, and I think this tactics are going away nowadays.
All I'm going to say is holy freaking no way, Tortorella. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very kindly. Next on the list is Paul Maurice. And I got to tell you something now. I thought a little bit about this, okay? Because he stepped away from a team on his own.
Yes.
Now, does that mean he's going to be that willing to come back after such a short period of time away? Maybe. Mm-hmm. Would Philadelphia potentially be that team that could do it? I mean, they're going to dangle a lot of money around. I guarantee you the next coach that's going to be coaching for the Flyers is going to be getting paid.
Yes, you're going to have to.
Nobody wants to come there, so
you're definitely going to have to pay them. So, yes, Maurice did step down from Winnipeg, but he did so in saying that he did not feel that he was the one to lead this team anymore. He didn't say he lost the locker room. He just felt that his style of coaching and his tactic, his way of going about it weren't working for this team. Not saying that it wouldn't work for another team, but I think he saw the writing on the wall that his time there was done, and he did all he could do. Okay. It's not saying that he's done with coaching altogether, possibly, but here's another experienced coach, 1,650 regular season games behind the bench, over that. Here we go again. He was actually drafted by the Flyers back in 1985. Never, I don't think, played for them, but drafted by the Flyers.
You just have to do that, don't you?
Yeah, just bring that in there.
Part of your blood, right?
Just bring that in there. So he's had over 24 years of coaching experience. He's a communication specialist. He's not so much in your face. He's not hollering. He's not drilling you guys to death. He's able to communicate effectively to his players and get his message and what he wants out of them across very well. So with saying that about the exact polar opposite of Tortorella, I think that, he would still fit in today's society standards as being a head coach.
Because he has more of that cerebral approach. And
Right. So he holds a career 5.28 win percentage. And, he could be an option as well. Again, a lot of these names that are still available are long in the tooth, long in the tooth. And
That would
I'm
be
not
putting it mildly.
right. And I'm not so sure that that is the direction that the Flyers need.
But see, you also point this out in the article too, and that was even some of the comments that were made too in that article where, look, I don't think you're going to get a college coach to come in and coach the Flyers.
Well, maybe possibly you could, but I don't know if the organization themselves is going to be willing to take another risk like they did with Dave Hackstall, and bring them in, because that was such a failure, that set them back quite a ways. And with that, that's why I think that the Flyers might go with a more inexperienced NHL coach.
Okay, I'm with you.
Right.
But see, maybe that cuts some of these guys off who are long in the tooth, and maybe you start looking at some of the guys that are coaching the AHL teams.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Because we're going to get into some, like we already mentioned, Paul Maurice. The next guy on the list is Claude Julien.
Right.
Right, and then the next guy is Mike Babcock.
Right.
Like those two guys right there are both coaches that have been coaching for over 1,400 games.
Yes.
Okay, so they may be available, but would they be the type of coach that could come in and coach the Flyers? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Julien, I mean, he had great success in Boston. He won a Stanley Cup there.
Yeah.
He won a Jack Adams Award. At times his win percentage in Boston was touching like .70. So has a lot of success. He coached recently at the Olympics, but I mean, this guy's 62 years old. He's had heart problems. He recently fell and broke a hip or something. I don't know, broke something before the Olympics and was almost not going to coach the team. But he somehow, got around to being healthy enough to coach the team. So I don't want a dinosaur to come in. And I don't think that Julien would be so willing to play the younger guys that we have seen some success at the end of the year with,
Had a problem in Boston doing that.
Yeah, I think that same, issue would rear its ugly head again. And that is the last thing the Flyers need to do. We saw that fail this season when we went out and signed all these Nate Thompsons and Derek Brassards and all these guys that got injured frequently, and we're just trying to fill the roster with, but we need to fill it with youth and speed and talent rather than experience.
Because let me tell you something. How do you get experience?
You're given an opportunity.
Given an opportunity to play a game that you love. And the best way to experience that is to lose a little.
Right.
And you got to lose a little before you can win a little, right? You get what I'm going here with this, right?
Right.
You can't just expect to just come in and everything's going to be right there and no, that's not how that works.
Right.
All right. There's two names left on the list. The last two names, the first of the last is Jim Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been hearing that name circulated as well recently.
Right.
Okay. And you mentioned him as well in the article, and then you also mentioned Kevin Dineen.
Right.
Okay. So talk to me about Jim Montgomery. All
right. So Jim Montgomery is currently coaching with the St. Louis Blues as an assistant.
Mm-hmm.
His name has been circulating, like you said, pretty heavily for a head coaching job, and more importantly with the Flyers. So he has ties as well to the Flyers, of course. Why else consider him, right? He played for both the Flyers and mostly the Phantoms.
Yeah.
For his career.
Yeah.
And he did pretty well once he started coaching. He had a shot in the NHL with the Dallas Stars, where he did pretty well.
Yeah.
But before that, he was a national championship winner at the University of Denver back in 2017. So when he was gifted the opportunity with the Stars, he kind of screwed that up. He had alcohol problem, which an addiction, and he went and dealt with that. And the St. Louis Blues, after he was good and clean, gave him this opportunity, which obviously he's done pretty well with. So,
you know, pretty good team.
The Flyers, might be willing to give him a second shot at a head coaching job. I mean, heck, they gave Paul Holmgren a job after he had a DUI arrest. So, his name is definitely out there. I think he's a little bit younger of a coach, obviously, than some of the names that we talked about before. I like his style. So it's an option. It's an option there. We'll have to see. But as far as Kevin Dineen, he's had some success at the NHL level as well. He was, of course, a Flyer for some time. But he bounced around a little bit as an assistant coach in the NHL and as a head coach in the AHL. He most recently with the NHL coached Florida back when they didn't really have too many outstanding players like they do now, but he had them at the playoffs. But he was subsequently fired because after that they didn't do so well. Because everybody left the team. He's won a Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
As an assistant coach there. He's had 2 stints with San Diego Gulls, and now he's with New Jersey's affiliate, the Utica Comets, where currently he has the AHL club sitting on top of their division. And with a win percentage of .664 right now. They had 93 points this year. So
Utica are in the playoffs now.
Definitely in the playoffs. And he was seriously considered as a name for the Seattle Kraken's head coaching position. But we all know they settled on Hackstall. So we see where that's going and where they're drafting right now. So there's a lot of names out there. One name in particular that I have as a long shot is Sweden's big name, Rickard Grönborg. Big name. A lot of hype behind this guy right now. He's had a lot of success coaching Team Sweden in international games. He's currently coaching, I believe, in the Swiss leagues, where he's doing pretty well as well. But again, with the outlier of Hackstall's failures here, I don't know if the Flyers are going to be willing to take that kind of risk on a guy who hasn't had any head coaching experience in the NHL. Would I like it? Do I like his systems? Yes. I don't know if the Flyers are going to be willing to bite that bullet and give him a shot. I hope they do.
I gotta tell you that name, and then obviously Knobloch are the name. That's the name I want. I mean, I can dream, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna wake up in the morning and it's gonna be like I followed the White Rabbit. You know what I mean?
I was big on Knobloch as well. I like his systems. I like his offensive prowess with his team. That's
probably not gonna happen.
But I don't think it's gonna happen now because earlier on in the season he had a lot of success. But since Christmas and after that, his team took with the Hartford Wolfpack, took a big nosedive, and they finished just above the Phantoms. So I wasn't really watching too many Hartford Wolfpack games. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't either.
But that was a name I was kind of big on too. He was here previously under Hackstall as an assistant. Of course, he coached so many great players. Connor McDavid, being the biggest name of the bunch with the Erie Otters before in the Canadian Junior Leagues. So, that name's there as well, but I don't see it happening now.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I can dream, and it's a name that I would like, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I think of the list that we've gone through in this article that you've written, I think there is going to be one of those guys that's going to be announced. And I already told you, everybody, I think that's going to be the Rick Tocchet thing. It's so screaming exactly what the Flyers are what they're thinking. Right? I mean, with everything that they've done so far to this point, it's almost like they're pointing right at Rick Tocchet, going, yeah, he's the next head coach. Shh, but yeah, he's the next head coach. Shh. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It just feels like that.
Yeah, they've already had him brought back and brought into the Flyers, Hall of Fame and all this good, happy stuff, and had a celebration for him, and it's kind of bringing him back around, the team. So,
like I said, oh, Rick, thank you. It's going to be the big hug, and everybody's going to be all hunky-dory, and come December 1st-ish, after the first 20 games, reality is going to set in. Look, I just have no faith in this current management administration to continue to make draft picks to try to continue to build this team, because you have utterly look. If I were to do the kind of job that Fletcher has done over the last what are we at now, 5 years now? Something 4 years. 4 years with Fletcher. Yeah. Hey, how do you make 4 years with Fletcher feel like 10? Turn him into the Minnesota Wild. Right? But I mean, after all this time, you still haven't been able to do anything. In fact, your teams have not gotten better. They've gotten worse as you've been here. The longer you're here, the worse the team gets. I don't know how much more writing on the wall do you need to get for the fact that AV's gone, so should everybody else.
Well, I think the organization figureheads and stuff, Dave Scott and everybody else, including Fletcher, is quickly to blame. Obviously, the amount of injuries that the Flyers have had this year, and
so another year of excuses.
Right, and excuses. Yep, excuses. So, if there were so many injuries and whatnot, why didn't you pull off a trade to do something about it before the season got away from you?
Name something here with me. Follow me, folks. The team that lost the most man games this year to injury was not Philadelphia. Even though at one point Philadelphia had 11 guys on the list. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm not taking away from that fact. But the team that had the most man games lost due to injury was Las Vegas. And they were still fighting for a playoff spot the last 2 games of the season. Now,
even after getting rid of Fleury, obviously that year,
and
they had that big backstop. He went to Chicago. We all know that, but
their number one goaltender, Lehner, missed the last 16 games of the season due to injury and whatever. Right. And all.
That was a big hurt for them as well. Yes, they do have a pretty good young goaltender out there. I really like him, and I think he might get a look at some NHL starting jobs very soon. So he was one of the best in the AHL. So a lot of change has happened in Vegas, but they were still, over the last year or two, but a lot of still good, going on in Vegas too. There's a lot of good talent there, and like you said, they were fighting.
But you didn't hear DeBauer come out and say, well, it was because of this, or you didn't hear their GM come out and say, oh, well, it was this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, and oh, we handed Mike Yeo a bad situation. And so let's get into that a little bit now, because we're talking about this press conference that Fletcher had the other day, and then also we'll talk a little bit too about two new hires for the Flyers, and then also the exit interviews, which is part of this whole press conference, right? And then also maybe potentially the next captain or so. All right, so these exit interviews and this press conference from Fletcher, and I'm going to quote Fletcher, and he said, and I quote, an aggressive retool. Unquote. Now, if you look that word up in the dictionary, okay, and then you apply that to hockey, so retool sounds like, you got one tool that's broken or a cog that's broken, and you replace it with a new piece or a new cog, or you put a whole new piece in there. All right. Now, that's singular piece. One. Lance, you and I both know that there are more than one piece missing from this team, even as it stands right now.
For sure.
Okay. I mean, am I looking at the wrong things here? Tell me I'm looking at the wrong things here, right?
Sadly, no. I mean, this is the same exact spot the Flyers were in last season. A lot of excuses coming out from the press conferences, and not a lot of hopefulness out of it.
One thing that we talked about the other day, and you were enlightening me about the Cam Atkinson quote.
I really like Cam Atkinson statements. He saw the frustration. There wasn't a whole lot of excuses to his game.
No,
it was him trying to make solutions. I actually got it here. They asked him, how difficult was it this year? Is it, tough to get excited for next year? What's the underlying factors in keeping you guys close and not pointing fingers over the years? And pretty long statement back to that, but what the part that I liked out of it is he said, it's a pretty crappy feeling being out of the playoffs by January. Every guy's got to look hard in the mirror and realize we never want to be in this spot again. What an embarrassment it was for the organization, the fan base, and the city itself. It's hard to build a culture within an organization, and it's just as easy to lose that. We need to find a way to stick together and build that winning culture. Coming to the rink and expecting to win, not hoping to win. I'm just embarrassed. I guess it's a crappy feeling, almost a waste of the year in my mind, but I hope Chuck is going to do some things in the summer to help this team. I want to be here. I want to win. We will turn things around. All right. That's inspirational. He wants to be here. He wants the team to do good. He's thrown it out there that he hopes Chuck can bring him some help to this team. And another quote that I liked from him, and why I think he might be a real possibility as being the next Flyers captain, and we'll get into that in 1 second. But when asked, a few guys have spoken on the with a positive statement about not finger pointing. If you're able to keep that attitude, what ways do you think that would help you have a better season next year? And he said, all the injuries, yes, the Olympics, breaking stuff up, potentially, even though the NHL players didn't go, it still messed with them a little bit. But he thinks it all starts with practice. You practice how you play, especially when I turned pro. I learned that from Tortorello. He was great in that aspect. There just wasn't a lot of practice times this year. It was hard to mold and gel as a group when you were playing so many games because you can watch video. You can't really get on the ice and do it. I think they're going into next year. We need to find a way to have some more grit, some more jam, some more FU to our game on both sides of the puck, in our own crease, defending our goalie, and in their crease. I thought we were a pretty soft team this year, in my opinion. All right. He didn't throw anybody out specifically, but he laid it out there pretty truthfully on this team's problem. All right. And I'm actually working on an article now, on how to fix that and how to bring those kind of players that can bring that grit and that toughness back to Philadelphia. Guys, we were once known as the Broad Street Bullies. All right. And not so much now. Yes, we don't need a bunch of knuckle draggers, as Cam Atkinson alluded to, but McEwen did help this year. All right. And Ristolainen did help with that some this year, but we need even more guys like that. And if you watch playoff hockey right now, guys, you look at some of the series that are going on, and there's full line brawls, and there's ginormous mind erasing hits happening. All right. Playoff atmosphere. If the Flyers want to be a playoff team, they're going to have to step up their game in the physicality aspect and more grit, be willing to stand up for their own teammates, be willing to stand in front of the net and get those dirty goals, as Simmer did for so many years, as Hartnell did for so many years. And you didn't see any of that this year.
No.
All right.
So I like what you're talking about there, and I like the fact that he came out and said that, and I think that makes him good captain material, because that shows that he's able to look at this team from a kind of a third-party perspective and kind of back away and look at this whole thing as a team and go, so this is what's really wrong with the team, and then what can I do to help, my part? What can my part be to help make it better and better and better? So this team
he was
doesn't
brought
have
in
that
to be a leader.
Yeah, I mean that's why he was brought. He wore an A over in Columbus. I mean, what? I mean, you don't put the letter on your sweater if you're not a leader. Okay, for the most part in hockey. I like the and I can't remember where I heard it in the last couple of days. The Flyers lack that Flyer flu, right? The Flyer flu is this. So the team that's coming in to play the Flyers that night, you get some of their players that go to the coach and go, oh, I'm not feeling too good tonight, coach. I don't think I can play tonight. That means they don't want to play the Flyers because they know they're getting their butts kicked.
And not just because we're going to decades.
Not just because we're going to fight you and beat you down, but because we're going to hammer you with hits. We're going to finish our checks. We're going to forecheck. We're going to be there at the blue line to stand you up. We're going to make you black and blue. Okay? That's what we're talking about here. That's the Flyer flu. There is no Flyer flu. Nobody has fear coming into Philadelphia anymore now because they look at Philadelphia as an easy team. They put their backup guys in. Okay? Come on.
This was for decades. Like I said, people feared the Flyers in the late 60s, the 70s, obviously with the Bullies, the 80s with so many hard-nosed players like Tocchet and Holmgren, and so many in the 90s with Hatcher, with Pronger. Like it came up through the years, and we were successful, and that's why the Flyers are one of the teams that were so successful over the duration of since they've been a team. But going back to this captaincy thing, who are the Flyers going to put a C on next year? That's my question. Sean Couturier, he's obviously been around a long time. He's won some records. They gave him a huge deal, right? Well, how effective is that going to be? Because this year he only played in 29 games. and last year he only played in 45. How about Kevin Hayes? All right, Kevin Hayes was brought in to be a player. This year he played in 48 games. Last year, just 55. The year before that, his first year, only 69. So do you really want to put, a C on somebody that's not going to be out there all the time? I don't know. I'm kind of lost with that. I really like Scott Lawton.
Yeah, I like that too.
I think he needs an A on his chest because he said a lot of similar things that Cam Atkinson did.
Yeah.
And he was very truthful. And yes, Cam got hurt this year as well, but it was towards the end of the season. He played in 73 games, and it was kind of more so like, hey, just we're out of it anyway. Let's just get healthy, and we're gonna play some kids here, and try to get that top 5 pick, which they did. So I'm more into seeing somebody like Cam step up in a more leadership role here because he's obviously frustrated and he's called out the general manager. He's called out his team without naming any names. So
yeah, when you come out in your exit interview press conference and you say those kinds of things that he said, and I'm glad to hear that he did say that because somebody needs to say something on this team because a couple episodes ago we talked about those rose-colored glasses. Mm-hmm. And you keep looking at all these rose-colored things and you think everything's so great and really when you take off the glasses and you see where you really are and it's not looking real good.
Harsh reality. Yeah,
harsh reality, exactly. Look, we talked about all of these different changes and things that are going to happen with Philadelphia this upcoming off season. With the draft coming on the 10th, Philadelphia has a 9.65% chance of the number 1 pick. So that's the Shane Wright sweepstakes. Once you get past the top 10 draft picks, it gets tough to start picking good players in this year's draft. I like Cam I think that Cam would be okay with. I'd be okay with him being captain if Cam was selected.
I think I think he's relatively young. I don't know if the team will do it because Sean Couturier has been there for so long, but I think, like you said, he's only known the Flyers. He's only lived, this life. He's only, drank the water, in Philadelphia. He hasn't seen success elsewhere and been on different teams to see, is the grass greener on the other side?
I mean, Giroux didn't either, but I think he inherited the captaincy of Philadelphia.
For sure. He was
more so.
He was the best player that they had, and that's why they gave him the
longest tenured guy, and
right. So I mean, but right. that doesn't always vow for a person being captain.
I agree. I like Scotty Lawton too. I like that idea too because he has drank the waters from the very beginning of Philadelphia, and his deal. I like the grittiness. I just like Scott Lawton as a player. I just, you know what I mean? I think he would make a good captain, or at least an A on his sweater at least.
He doesn't take a shift off. He's a gritty forward. He's a forward-checking guy. He, tends to be up at the tops of, hits, block shot. He'll do it all. And that's what a true leader is. He's had to fight his way. He was a, first-round draft pick for the Flyers, but he's had to battle through some tough times and a lot, speculation on him being traded, earlier on in his career, but he's really made a good pro and a name for himself. So since then. So I really like him to take on an A here, and I think the leadership group needs to change. Giroux's gone, of course, but the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, I
Like we
agree.
said, it's so many weeks upon weeks here with this disastrous season. I think they need a new outlook and maybe a new voice in the locker room.
Well, they're definitely going to get a new voice in the locker room. I think they're going to need a new voice in the front office. And
that's to come, like you said, come December next year.
Yeah, right. So that means that they get to blow this draft, right, and not have the opportunity to pick Shane Wright and not pick him. Like let me ask you a question, right? All right, hypothetically, if you could go back in time and instead of picking Nolan Patrick, would you pick Heischer all day long?
No.
No, but I mean, if those were the only two choices you had, if you had to either pick Patrick or Heischer, you would go back and pick Heischer all day, because at least he's still kind of sort of.
I would pick Cal.
Well, no,
like the Flyers wanted to.
Okay,
the Flyers scouting department wanted to.
I know that. I'm saying that at the time the two top draft picks were those two players. Right. Now I'm with you. I would have taken Cal as well too. Duh. Right. But we're not up there making that call. Okay.
Right hand shot defenseman. Yeah.
Oh well, hey, and now we're scrambling to try to find one, and yeah, Ristolainen just. Anyway, so I'll tell you what though, man, we did cover a huge list of coaches that are potentially out there that the Flyers could hire. We also gave our opinions on who we think, or feel could potentially be a good coach. I like that Swiss coach that you mentioned. I also like this Dineen guy as well too. Not a bad choice all day long. Like I said, I would much rather have Knobloch, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if that's going to be the case, then I'm going to have to settle for the lesser of two. What? And I can tell you right now, I really hope it's not a Rick Tocchet or a Dave Tippett or a John Tortorella. And or a Mike Babcock. I would take Paul Maurice. I would take Claude Julien. I would take Jim Montgomery. I would take Kevin Dineen. If that's what my choices were, I would be okay with any one of those guys, because of all the coaches we have out there, this is the what we get to pick from. All right.
I really would like to see, potentially Grongborg come in.
Yeah, I would like that too. That would be good.
I kind of like Jim Montgomery out of the list of names there.
Okay.
But like I said, everybody around the league apparently has some ties or affiliations with the Flyers. I guess that's a good thing. That they.
Yeah, how's this for a good thing, right? This playoffs this past year right now, the playoffs that we're in right now, 13 Philadelphia Flyers that used to play for Philadelphia are now in the playoffs. Riddle me this, Batman. How is it that our boy Justin Braun is now in the playoffs?
I mean, that he was bought by a team headed to the playoffs. He was traded to a team.
No, I know, but I mean,
playoff teams are going to be, buyers at the deadline. So, listen, New York's using them as they should.
The way we should.
The Flyers were riddled with injuries of Ellis, who they should never traded for anyway, because he has a career of being injury prone. But, to use Braun as a first line, defenseman, a first pairing defenseman, that just sets yourself up to fail.
Never have been.
I mean, great for him to be able to step up and do that. But at this point in his career, he's a third pairing defenseman. Did you see New York get Braun and move Adam Fox out of the first pair? No, you didn't. But they're using him in a role that he's capable of handling.
Yeah, sparingly. He's not in every night. You know what I
Right.
mean? He's not playing every game. So anyway, well, Lance, I'll tell you what, man. We covered a lot in the show this week. We talked potentially the next captain, potentially the next coach. One little quick thing here I want to mention too that we got to witness today was the hiring of Sammy Kapanen, who we all know and love. I mean, I don't know about you, but when he took that hit in that Toronto series and got up eventually, and they never blowed the whistle the whole time, and he got up and he was pointed in the wrong direction from jump because he had no clue where he was, right? And finally skated off the ice, and they still did not blow the play dead, but we all know who Sammy Kapanen is, and welcome back to the Flyers. And the great grandson of Fred Shiro, Kyle Shiro, right? So we all know who Shiro is, right? He was the coach of the Stanley Cup winning Flyers. So
yes.
All right, 2 more ex-Philadelphia guys back in the fold.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually like Kapanen, though. I like Kapanen. He's been out, in Europe and had success, owning a team, I believe, out there.
Yep.
And he's out there. He knows those prospects, and he can help a big influence. And I think the Flyers need to go in that direction. They need to get some European-born players. If you look at, the teams that Yzerman has built, and been successful with, they have a lot of European players, just like his teams that he played on. The Flyers are been drafting the same kind of players for so long from
small,
Canada.
Fast defensemen who think they can score.
So, let's see what Sammy can do, and let's see what Sammy can, suggest.
Well, hey, I guess we'll find out, huh? I mean, welcome back. So you did mention it already, and you did talk about it. You have a article that you got kind of in the quote unquote typewriter right now.
Yeah, lots of notes, lots to put together. So another thinker, I guess you would say, cause and effect here.
Yeah, man.
With the great Atkinson statement there, it kind of sparked my mind in a direction.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure. That's great, man. Lance, why don't you tell the folks where we can find you, where we can get you, where we can read all of those great, awesome articles that you write.
Sure. You can find all my stuff on flyersnittygritty.com. You can find it on steelflyers.com. You can find me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the number's 39. Follow me there. I will answer back when I can. Definitely like to hear feedback and everything from the fans.
Yes,
you can
please.
also tend to find my stuff on Bleacher Report if you search the Flyers page there.
For sure. And, I got to say this, man, for sure. You can find the Hockey Writers Inc. All you have to do is go to your favorite podcasting platform on iHeart or Google or Apple or Spotify or any of those platforms, thanks to Spreaker. All you have to do is go in there and type in the Hockey Writers Inc., find us, and hit the 5 stars and check us out, and you can get to know us that way as well. That's where you can find all of our great shows out on those platforms for you as well. That's iHeart, Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, Anchor, Spreaker, you name it, we're out there. We're on it. Check us out. Hit the like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching us. I'm Steel Flyers, your co-host. You can catch me on the website at SteelFlyers.com and all the great folks at the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, from Peyton on the radio to John from Off the Wall Hockey to Joe for the great Sports Fanatic and the JB and Steel Show, to the great Pearl of Wisdom and the NHL Pearl of Wisdom Show, and of course, the great Lance Green, writer extraordinaire for the Hockey Writers Inc. Thank you all for watching us, folks. We'll catch you all the next time. We'll see you in the next show. Later.
Later, guys.